Alright, well, this may be the only video of its type on YouTube. This is an example of a factory hot air choke setup on a Quadrajet. This is from a mid to late 70s vehicle. After about 1980, General Motors mainly went to electric chokes, and before about 1975 or so they used divorce chokes, which has no choke unit on the carburetor itself like that. But here's a good view of this, and this will be instrumental and essential for anyone that is restoring one of these vehicles. Nova, Impala, Caprice, Camaro, Corvette, pickup, van, something like that. They all use the same kind of apparatus, and it's a big good time to also explain how these work. So let's do that. First of all, this is essentially just a closed circuit. It's like a vacuum circuit, and the way this works is inside of this hot air choke housing there is a drilled passageway, which when this is bolted to the carburetor, it comes along the little shaft that operates the choke up here, sticks straight in like that, and there's a rubber seal. It's kind of to the right of it, but there's a rubber seal that seals it also, and that's a metered vacuum source there. And what happens is when the engine starts and runs, it's pulling a vacuum on this, and the vacuum is pulled through this tube here and comes around, and where it starts at, let's start at where it begins. This is the fitting at the top of the carburetor at the back, and this is not a vacuum line. This is a repeat, this is not a vacuum line. This is just, what this does is this leads into the inside of the carburetor area right here above the air horn, and this is inside the air filter. The filter's out here. So by design, this is pulling in filtered air. That's assuming you're running an air filter. I hope you are. So when this is pulling vacuum, it sources the air through here, pulls through this, it comes down, and it leads down here, and it comes to the what I call the choke stove. And this little apparatus got a connection here, and we'll pull it out here in a minute, but you see there's a tube. This is very interesting. There's a long tube that comes around and curves around. Looks like one of those barbecue lighters, the old ones, but it's not. This is just an air tube, and where this is this is the exhaust crossover package in the passage, in the intake, and it comes directly out of the exhaust ports of the head, and it conducts hot exhaust gases under the carburetor, and it helps warm the carburetor, and it also warms up the air in this tube here. So this comes down like this, circulates through here, comes around, gets warmed up, pretty hot, comes back out the other side here, comes around, and leads right back into the choke housing, and that's what expands the choke coil in there, and that's what keeps your choke off as the engine warms up. So that's how that works. It's a very, 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 very simple design, and it's a good, reliable design until something either breaks or somebody frigs it up. And so try not to let either one of those happen if you can. What normally happens is on these, to disable them, most often it's a break in one of these lines somewhere, and I'm about to show you, this one's actually broken in here, and I'm going to pull it out and show you here in just a second. But it's not a problem if this is open to the atmosphere. All this is doing, this is just pulling in air. If you don't happen to have the right carburetor and you don't have this fitting, you can actually just take a little piece of foam or something like that and maybe glue it onto the end of this so it'll pass air, but it'll filter it, because you want filtered air coming through this, because this is going back into the carburetor. But most often it's either a break in this line here someplace, a rust or snap, or down in here. And if there's a break in this anywhere, it will not work, okay? Period. So it has to be all, no leaks in it. That includes your rubber lines here and here. Like I said, this is not essential up here, you know, that's not the problem. The problem is on this side here, because you know, if you got a break in this, obviously it's like any kind of vacuum line, it's going to stop pulling air through here, and it's not going to get heated, and your choke's not going to turn off. So if you're having problems with a, you know, a hot air choke and it's not wanting to release, it's not wanting to open up, then that's what you need to look at. And so sometimes, you know, sometimes you have something, if the carburetor's not been rebuilt, it might gum up in here and it stick, stuff like that, or this, you know, rarely these choke coils will break inside, the whole thing will just break apart, but that's pretty rare. And of course the adjustment is crucial too. If you look on here on this element, you see it says rich and lean. Arrow one way, arrow the other way. This way's lean, that way's rich. You see there's a hash mark right there on that. See that? That's a hash mark. So if you look up the specs on this carburetor, you take your carburetor number and you look it up, and it says the choke setting is 1 notch lean, 1 notch rich, 2 notches rich, 2 notches lean. What that means is that one there, that one's kind of raised up. Whoops, see how it's raised there? That's the center, that's dead center. You got 3 this way, you got 3 this way. 3 rich, 3 lean. So the setting for this carburetor is 1 lean. That means you loosen these screws up. Loosen these screws up here, and you rotate this till it's pointing at 1 notch lean. That's how you adjust the choke on it. And tighten these back up, and this is fragile metal, so you don't have to tighten the crap out of these. Just snug them up. That's it. All you do. So, and that should get a hot air choke working again. Like I said, they're a very, 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 very simple design, so you just have to have all the right good parts on it and make sure they're not busted. So now I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to pull the car back off so I can get access to this, but these tubes just come out. They come out easily. They just slip right out. So you need to be sure that they do fit in there kind of snugly. This one's a little loose. I don't like how loose this is, so I'll probably do a little bit of metal work on this to make sure it kind of stays in snugly, because you really don't want to leak there. And then this one just comes off the top there, and it pulls out also. And I'll lift the carburetor off. It's just sitting on here. Lift the carburetor off, and you got 2 bolts to hold this in. You pull them out. Random spider, and this thing just comes right out like this, curves out. Now take a look at this. You see it looks okay this way, right? Well, turn it around. Let's see which way. Yeah, there we are. See that? That ain't ever gonna work, because that's leaking your vacuum out right into the exhaust. So you know, it's just not going to work. So this, you cannot have holes or cracks or any missing parts. This has to be in perfect condition. That's all there is to it. It has to be in perfect condition. It has to be able to cut and conduct the vacuum signal from this tube to this tube without leaks. Without leaks. So, you know, if you got one that's not working right, pull this thing out and take a look at it. Now, what happened on this intake when I was going through this is this thing was real stuffed up, so you also need to make sure that you ain't got carbon plugging this crossover up, because that cuts off the exhaust flow and then that thing doesn't heat up. So anyway, last thing on this, I know I said this is a kind of a metered vacuum signal, vacuum leak, and I know first thing guys say, oh, that's a vacuum leak, that can't be good for it. No, 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 no. It's designed, the carburetor's calibrated for that. Doesn't hurt anything. So move on from that. So just be sure when you have these things apart that you put that little rubber O-ring seal back in here. If you don't, it won't work. Choke won't work. So it won't ever release. So that's how those work, guys. This should be instrumental to help you guys get these things going again. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.